We will now study the acceptance of transaction negotiation. Acceptance, referred to a commitment in the legal context, is when the buyer and seller agree to the various transaction conditions proposed by the other party in the offer. They are willing to conclude a transaction with each other based on these conditions and make a positive manifestation of entering into a contract. This manifestation can be a statement or a certain action. In accordance with laws and customs, when one party's offer is accepted by the other, the transaction is deemed concluded, and the contract is considered established. Both parties should then fulfill their respective contractual obligations. The conditions for acceptance are as follows. Firstly, acceptance must be made by the offeree. Agreement from other parties to the offer does not constitute an acceptance. Secondly, the offeree's acceptance should be expressed through a declaration, either orally or in writing. See to it that the acceptance clearly reaches the offerer. An acceptance can also be expressed through actions. Furthermore, the content of acceptance must be consistent with that of the offerer. Lastly, the notice of acceptance must be delivered to the offerer within the valid period of the offer in order to be effective. The time when acceptance takes effect varies in different legal systems. In the common law legal system, the time when acceptance takes effect is the time of posting. In the civil law legal system, the effecting time is received time of the arrival of an acceptance. The United Nations Convention on Contracts for the International Sale of Goods considers the time of arrival as a valid time, or it can be expressed through some form of actions as having taken effect. In the common law legal system, the principle of mailbox rule is adopted, which means that once the acceptance notice is posted, it becomes effective immediately. In the civil law legal system, the principle of receipt rule is adopted, which means that the acceptance notice must be delivered to the offerer to take effect. The United Nations Convention on Contracts for the International Sale of Goods stipulates that acceptance becomes effective upon delivery to the offerer. If the acceptance notice is not delivered to the offerer within the specified time limit as provided by the offer, or if the offer does not specify a time limit and the acceptance is not delivered to the offerer within a reasonable time, then the acceptance is considered a late acceptance. According to the laws of various countries, a late acceptance is not a valid acceptance. The United Nations Convention on Contracts for the International Sale of Goods adopts the principle of receipt rule of the civil law legal system. If a withdrawal notice is delivered to the offerer before or at the same time as the acceptance is expected to take effect, the acceptance can be revoked. But once the acceptance notice reaches the offerer, it cannot be revoked because the acceptance has already taken effect, and the contract is deemed to have been established. Revoking the acceptance is essentially a breach of contract. United Nations Conventions on Contracts for the International Sale of Goods provides flexible treatment for the late acceptance. Late acceptance, also known as delayed acceptance, refers to the acceptance that is not delivered to the offerer within the time limit specified in the offer. Whether a late acceptance is deemed valid depends on the offerer's attitude. As long as the offerer notifies the offeree promptly, either orally or in writing, indicating that they consider the late acceptance to be valid and are willing to be bound by it. The contract can still be concluded when the acceptance is delivered to the offeree. On the contrary, if the offerer refuses the late acceptance or fails to promptly notify the offeree as mentioned above, the late acceptance shall be invalid, and the contract cannot be agreed. If a letter or other written document containing the late acceptance indicates that it was sent in a timely manner and would have been delivered to the offerer in due course if the transmission was usual, then the late acceptance should be considered valid. The contract is concluded upon receipt of the acceptance notification by the offerer, unless the offerer promptly, without delay, notifies the offeree, either orally or in writing, that their offer is invalidated due to the late acceptance. Move into the in-class practice. Please analyze how this case should be handled. Both Vietnam and the United States are contracting states to the United Nations Convention on Contracts for the International Sale of Goods, and neither party has excluded the applicability of the convention in their correspondence regarding this transaction. Therefore, the parties involved should be bound by the provisions of the CISG. According to the third paragraph of Article 19 of the CISG, a change in packaging does not constitute a fundamental alteration. Thus, the contract should be considered valid based on the condition of the goods being packed in plastic woven bags. In summary, the American company's response manifests an acceptance, and the contract is concluded. If the American company refuses to perform their duties, the Vietnamese party should claim for compensation in accordance with the relevant provisions of the CISG. Move into the exploration and improvement section. Now, let's consider whether we should fulfill the contract or refuse to do so in this situation. Your comments are welcome to discuss. Thank you for listening.